This is the first month, and we're talking about faith, and the color is blue. The disciple is Peter, and faith is located in the center of the head between the ears and the eyes, and there's no coincidences. So I got an email this week from a friend of mine from my previous church, and I want to share this with you because this is perfect for faith. So it says, "Hello, welcome to Flight 2020. We are preparing to take off into the new year. Please make sure your attitude and blessings are secured and locked in an upright position. All self destructive devices should be turned off at this time. All negativity, hurt, and discouragement should be put away. Should we lose attitude under pressure, during the flight, reach up and pull down a prayer. Prayers would automatically be activated by faith. Once your faith is activated, you can assist other passengers. There will be no baggage allowed on this flight. The captain, God, has cleared us for takeoff. Destination greatness. May this be your best flight yet. Happy 2020." So I just could not believe it. I thought that was great. So we're talking about faith, and we talk a lot about faith in Unity, and you can never talk about faith too much. We think of faith as happening suddenly. Well, one of the reasons that Peter is the disciple that represents faith is because faith rarely happens like that. Even if for people that have had spiritual experiences, usually even though they may have this spiritual experience, life does not always go easily and effortlessly because life happens. And so Peter is the disciple for that. But this whole idea of the 12 powers, someone asked this question: how many people have ever read Charles Fillmore's The 12 Powers of Man? If you want to go to sleep, read this at night in bed. This is one of the most difficult Charles Fillmore books you will ever read. It is so intense. So Charles Fillmore was very esoteric. He spent a lot of time in meditation, and he was often in another realm. And if you read this book, you can really see that. So we're going to try and make it a little bit simpler to understand. So what Charles was talking about is that there are 12 powers within every person. And when those powers are combined into one, they create this higher consciousness, this Christ consciousness. And that Jesus was the epitome of these 12 powers working together. Now, we all have those 12 powers, but sometimes they're a little weaker in us and some are a little bit stronger. But we all have them. And the idea is that as we work on these powers, we are getting to a place of a higher consciousness. So every power is represented by a color and a disciple and a part of the body, kind of like the chakras. So the reason that Peter represents faith, if you know the story of Peter, Peter was a man by the name of Simon, and he didn't believe in anything. And one day, Peter has this miraculous experience, and he feels God, and he becomes one of Jesus' disciples. So even though Peter had this amazing spiritual experience, I mean, if we had an experience like that, we would be like, oh my God, I've been touched by God, and, everything is going to be great. Peter struggled. He struggled constantly, which is why I love Peter. Because even though he had this great experience, he still struggled. So one story of Peter struggling was, he's in the boat, the disciples are in the boat, and Jesus is on the shore, and, he tells Peter to walk to him, and Peter gets out of the boat, and Peter starts walking on the water. And then all of a sudden, Peter realizes, oh, I'm walking on the water, and he immediately starts to sink, right? And then until Jesus grabs his hand and pulls him out. Well, that happens to us sometimes. We're going through life, we feel really spiritual. We got faith, we feeling really good. We got it. we're up there on the mountaintop. And then something happens in life, and all of a sudden we get scared and we start to sink. And we don't come out of that until we raise our consciousness to a higher consciousness, which is what Jesus Christ represents. So, if life would be great if we just had that experience and that would be it. Even after that, later in the story of Jesus, when Jesus is getting crucified, Peter denies him. He's had all these experiences. He knows Jesus really well, and he continues to deny him. Well, that happens to us too sometimes. We get questioned about our faith, and right away maybe we start stepping back. We don't want to talk to people about what we believe in. They might think we're crazy. They might be ready to put us in a way. So this is this human nature of us. We feel this connection. We have experiences. We really feel like we're one with God, and then something happens in our life, and immediately it all goes out the window. So there's this wonderful scene. It's very short. So in the movie Apollo 13, remember Apollo 13? The astronauts are going to go to the moon, and then they have some difficulties. And it looks like they might not make it back safely. And in the movie about it, they show an interview they had with Jim Lovell, who was the captain. And the interviewer asks him about what does he do when something happens. And this is a scene from the movie where this is the interview.
Apollo 13 Commander Jim Lovell has more time in space, almost 24 days already, than any other man. And I asked him recently if he ever was scared.
Oh, well, I've had an engine flame out a few times at an aircraft and was kind of curious as to whether it was going to light up again, things of that nature. But they seem to work out.
Is there a specific instance in an airplane emergency when you can recall fear?
Well, I tell you, I remember this one time, I'm in a Banshee at night in combat conditions, so there's no running lights on the carrier. It was the Shangri-La, and we were in the Sea of Japan, and my radar had jammed, and my homing signal was gone because somebody in Japan was actually using the same frequency, and so it was leading me away from where I was supposed to be. And I'm looking down at a big black ocean, so I flip on my map light, and then suddenly, zap, everything shorts out right there in my cockpit. All my instruments are gone, my lights are gone, and I can't even tell now what my altitude is. I know I'm running out of fuel, so I'm thinking about ditching in the ocean, and I look down there, and then in the darkness, there's this green trail. It's like a long carpet that's just laid out right beneath me, and it was the algae, right? It was that phosphorescent stuff that gets churned up in the wake of a big ship, and it was just leading me home. And now, if my cockpit lights hadn't...
Cut off. So he says if the cockpit lights hadn't gone out, he never would have seen the green trail, which led him to safety. So think about this in life. Very often, something happens to us which seems like it's negative, and we can get caught up in that. But if we realize, if we think about this, very often it is that negative stuff that happens to us that often leads us home, that shows us the way home. Life is life, and it would be great if it was always okay, but it is the challenges in life that strengthen our faith. Because when things are going well in life, what happens? God becomes like, I'm the driver now, right? I've got the wheel. Life is good. I'm in control. I'm navigator, driver, pilot, co-pilot. I got it all, And then something happens, and life all of a sudden gives you one of those bumps. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know the direction. I don't know how to drive this vehicle. I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden you start praying, and you're praying, and you're praying. And as a result of that, something good will happen. Now, we have to realize that something good doesn't always happen right away. So Myrtle Fillmore, one of Unity's co-founders, turned to prayer to heal herself. But the healing took 2 years. 2 years. Sometimes what happens to us takes a long time for us to see the good. In this case, in Apollo, he saw it right away. The path was obvious, it led him home. But sometimes that negative experience takes a while for us to find home. You know, for years, I lived in darkness, as far as spiritual darkness, and I could not see how what I was going through could ever turn out to be good. I would have argued from down till doomsday how this could never have turned out to be good. There was no way I could have known that all these years that I was experiencing all this darkness would lead me to the path that eventually showed me light, showed me God, brought me everything that is good in my life. I would not have that. I always joke around and say, I had 2 lives. I had the life before and the life after. And they are so different. But I would not have the life after if I didn't have the life before. I would not have that if I didn't have the other. Someone reminded me of that the other day. And so this happens with the things that happen to us in our life. So when something comes up in your life that's a challenge, instead of just saying, I don't know, I do this. Right away we get into self-pity, selfishness. We get into, oh, woe is me. Why is this happening to me? We all do this. We all go right into that negativity because it's hard not to do that. We have to remember when that happens that this too is good, and this too is God, and this too is designed for us. Folks, everything that happens to us is designed for us because it is that green light that leads us home. And home is wherever we wind up when we are no longer here. And I don't know where that is, but I know it has something to do with a higher being, a higher place, and I can't get there without all of the life experiences. So for each time we do one of the 12 powers, we're going to do a little exercise. So I invite you to sit for a moment and close your eyes and relax yourselves. And I want you to focus on the crown of your head, which is your Christ center. Just take your attention and just place it on the crown of your head. And you're going to affirm this. The Spirit of God is quickened in me. Silently to yourself say, the Spirit of God is quickened in me. The Spirit of God is quickened in me. Next, move your center of tension to your forehead. And this is often thought of representing the conscious level of mind. And realize that you are consciously aware that the Spirit of God is being quickened in you. And think, I am aware that the Spirit of God is quickened in me. I am aware that the Spirit of God is quickened in me. Now move your attention to the solar plex, which represents the subconscious level of the mind. In order to accept your awareness that the Spirit of God is being deepened in you, at the deepest level of your being, affirm, I am grateful that the Spirit of God is being quickened in me. I am grateful that the Spirit of God is being quickened in me. Now let your center of attention travel to the middle of the head, the faith center, and softly affirm, the Christ in me calls forth Peter, my disciple faculty of faith. The Christ in me calls forth Peter, my disciple faculty of faith. And as you do this, imagine your higher power, Jesus, whatever you turn to represent the Spirit of God, saying to you, according to your faith, be it done unto you. According to your faith, be it done unto you. And then conclude by saying, I am grateful. And just feel that gratitude, filling every cell of your being. And for that gratitude and that knowing that your faith is being strengthened, say, thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.